Well, hey folks, we're going to continue doing some art commissions this morning for The Gun of Enraven, the book cover that I got commissioned to do by Andy Healy. I'm setting up my clock here to do a timer. There we go. I got about, a little less than, I got about maybe 100 minutes of play this morning. So give me a second here to check my signal, make sure we're live. I'll go through my quick intro spiel. And then we'll get to work here. So mic check, 1, 2, 3. Here. So mic check, 1, 2, 3. Cool. Sounds like I'm coming through okay, well enough. Let's see if maybe I can turn up a bit there. Hopefully I'll be coming through more clearly now. Check. Hopefully I'll be coming through more clearly now. Check. Hopefully I'll be coming through more clearly. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. All right, we should be okay. If anyone's having any kind of volume issues, give me a heads up and I'll fix at it. So if you're catching this after the stream, you're just checking out the work, go ahead and skip forward like a minute or two to get past the intro. There's weirdness afoot. Hold on. There's weird issues going on in my life right now. I don't know what Twitter. I'm trying to go to Twitter to see if I posted this thing, and it's looking like a negative there, Space Ghost. All right, okay, anyway, so hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games. I illustrate them. I publish them online. I do book commissions. I do art commissions as well. I started in art commissions before I started book creations. I did freelance work through the 2000s. Hey, Willie. And so let's see. Yeah, there's a slew of links in the description down below to previous work that I've done. You can check that stuff out. There's probably about 150 illustrations among the works that I got published down below. If you want to check out any previews of that work, just to see the kind of stuff that I create, you can click on the full preview or just look at the book covers if you want. Either way, check them out. Right now, this is the book cover that Andy Healy had commissioned me to create. Andy is the co-writer for the Ebron adventure that I create maps and tokens for on Mondays and Thursday evenings. It's a similar art stream to this. We've been creating a bunch of monster tokens lately, so it's definitely worth checking out if you're interested. Let me see, did this stream book cover? Oh, great, it worked. Cool. Let's see. Otherwise, let's see. Beep. Okay, great. I just posted I'm live on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter, X at Phil Kearney, if you're interested. Best way to help support the channel. Hey, thanks, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. We're trying to get our first major milestone will be 500 subscribers. Once we get to that point, I can start doing little shop things down at the bottom of the screen for people to click through. I'm planning on starting to put my stock art on Patreon so that people can pick it up cheap. We'll see if I have time to do that in the new year or not. But we're building a lot of books. We're doing a lot of artwork. I'm here anywhere from 9 to 12 times per week, 6 days a week. I typically take Sundays off, but I've been recording content so that I can have stuff post even though I'm not stream on Sunday. So this is where we're at with the covers so far. I just want to catch up here real quick. Hey, Catboy. Just about to say, hey, good stream. Right on, my dude. Okay, so this is where we're at with the covers so far. We have a font type that Andy wants me to use for the title, but this is the rough placement for the title using a rich red. We'll probably use this off-white, yellow, goldy sort of color to frame the lettering here. That should go well. This is a coloring that we have present off of the DM's Guild. It's using that same rich red, white, and black. So that's the general same themes that we're using here in the top will be that red, close to white, and then the same red there. So we're going to have a correlation here at the top of the page to the bottom of the page. Thanks for the love, guys. And so zooming in, when we last left off, I was doing ground scrubbery and groundwork here. And as you can see, I've come through and I've fleshed out a lot of it. One of the questions that had cropped up to me before was, hey, it looked like the hands were just kind of sitting on top of the terrain. But as you can see here, we've dug into the ground so that it's actually gripping at the earth that it's pulling up. So I feel like we've gotten that well resolved. We've got the lighting resolved for the cars that got knocked down. We got the texturing on the path resolved. And considering that this is the scale that we would at best expect people to see it, but we're actually on the ribbon on the front of the page. This is about the size that you're going to see it on the front strip. Actually, let's take a quick field trip, kids, and go to. You know what? We can do this. We can be smarter than this. Let's be smart. Let's go check out what a product page looks like. Find out more about monochromatism. Oh, I'm not promoting any of my books right now. Okay, well, I guess I'm not promoting any of my books on this described. Let's go to dmsguild.com. Here you go, front strip. This is the size of book covers that you see here. So this is about, yeah, that is literally the size that is appearing here on this ribbon. This is the size of your book cover. So if I can have an interesting looking thing going on here that makes you go, I want to see more of what's going on here, then you'll click into the book and then you can click onto the cover to find out what you got going on, right? So that would be the same thing as us being here and zooming in. It's like, what's this guy all about? And then you can zoom in even more. And obviously we've got a lot of detailed work that we've worked out for this construct from hell. And like literally from hell, and that's digging up the terrain here. I'm really happy with a lot of the texturing that I've got going on here on these rocks. It feels pretty good. And I don't have as much detail here because I plan on blasting this out with energy, so I didn't need to texture this area. So you can see like you can see how the hand doesn't actually rest on anything. I'm going to wash energy across that so it licks across this terrain that we've dug out. But I have to build the language that I want to use for the energy that's crackling from this. So you can see how that stuff all sits together and the background that's involved with it. I'm really happy with the composition so far. But yeah, so the last two things that we really need to do with this piece is figure out the energy burst and the lettering. And so we've got about 100 minutes today. Got a timer going to keep us on track. I'm going to take a sip of water, catch up on the notes, and then we're just going to fuck around for a while, see if we can come up with something cool. What's up? Have you ever thought about creating your own monster manual? No. Excuse me. Oh, I still am shaking off that sick. I'm going to make sure. This is the... I got this line on the screen. That's literally the edge of my monitor right there at an angle. So I have this little, you see this little line thing that's going on here? That's actually an artifact from the OBS window because this is the size of the PS. See, that's where the PS frame is. And I leave that there to be able to cover over the edge of the screen. So when I'm here, you see that little mark, but I now use that mark as the edge of my monitor. So as long as I keep my monitor edge there and I tilt its butt up at me this way, I can read the text here like a normal human would without having to rub my nose on the monitor while I do it because I'm super blind. So that's enough fucking around. How about, this was some energy crackly bits that I had thought about that I ultimately wasn't very happy with. It didn't feel very magic energy to me. So this is what I'm thinking about doing. No, I haven't thought about doing a monster manual. I don't want to design all the monsters, and I don't want to have to do all the stat block layouts. It's a massive pain in the ass, and then I don't want to have to illustrate all of them. There's a billion monsters out there, and all mine are improvised. So like whenever I'm running a game, if I'm just running a game, a lot of times I'm just making up the monster on the fly. Like wherever the team is at stat-wise, resources, hit points, and emotional endurance will pretty much set. Like I'm always in the back of my head recalibrating the scale of challenge that they can tolerate where we're at inside of today's session with where the characters are at and where the players are at together at the same time. So I'm layering in the complexity of the creatures. At most, you'll be seeing in the Martial Powers book that I do, I'm providing creature templates. Like in 3rd edition, they had templates for creatures. I'm providing power templates that you can place on any creature that you can find out there for 3rd edition. So in that sense, I am providing monster resources, but like like there's a lot of really great books out there. This is a fractal brush that I created during the 5-color mana spell point variant rules that I created. It's kind of a riff off of the Mandelbrot fractal set that's famous. You can see that there's a pseudo recurring pattern here. This is the general wibble of it, and then you can see here that this is that same little wibble between the two of them. Here's the same sort of little wibble between the two of them. So it's kind of a fractaling set that I can I can clip together. I can tile together because there's so many points of entry into the pair of into the math set. So the words are escaping me right now for some stupid reason. So I was thinking about using that to help frame the circle. So I'm starting off here. See, I can clip these things together just by finding points that I can clip together like that. And then like here I could like clip on. There we go. I could clip two together, like say, let's flip it over and see where we can find a fun connection. That's tempting. Let's go with clip. And then I don't know if this is gonna end up working or not. Like I said, we're just kind of fucking around right now. Clip. Bring that down a bit. Clip. And the construct is on a layer higher in the document than the energy pattern, so the patterning ends up behind the construct. I'll flip this over like that. That feels right. Oh yeah, that's definitely right. Clip. And that brings us back to dope, dope, dope. Okay, so let's start with that as an idea, and we're gonna have this push up. So let's use the same fractal set and hook up some edges here, like that. And then say here. So that's a start. We can then I'm going to use the smaller size here. It still just clicks into place. As we get smaller, the line gets more faint, so I need to actually let's put that here. And then here. So we're gonna have to duplicate this layer multiple times so we can like bold it. You can bold lines by duplicating them. They just naturally get thicker and like a denser color presence. Here, I'll show you. No, I didn't say delete. I said duplicate. You silly rabbit. There. See, it immediately got lighter, and then I can merge them together and they stay lighter. And then I can duplicate. This will be 4 times the intensity. Burp. See, 4 times the intensity. And then I can actually back this one down a little bit. There, so it's not more intense than the originals. So there, now we have the same intensity. I can merge the whole structure down together. Cool. So that is an idea. Oh, and we have that back curve there too that we need to respect. So let's create that back here like that. And we'll flip this here. say, yeah, we'll leave that one like that. Through there. And then let's hide the weapon. There. 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 Nope, that was a smudge, not a dip. You gotta pixel it straight so it doesn't smudge up. There. There. Look, these things just kind of curve together. It's pretty cool. There. Nope, that's a smudge. There we go. That's decent. And then we can... Yeah, I bet we can catch that little bit there. There we go. Nice. All right, and then we'll do that same duplication effect. Duplicate the layer. Look at that. This pops. And then let's say duplicate the layer again. Duplicate your layer. We'll drop these down a touch. Merge. 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 Don't do it. No, merge. Ooh, look at that thickness back down there. That's... Let's smooth that. We're ultimately, my dream here, I would consider it a victory if when we complete doing this energy rendering, if I could actually remove this this black hole sphere completely. Like replace this structure that we have here, this dome structure, replace it with just the energy matrix that we're building. Like the energy matrix itself can form that shape. I don't know if we'll be able to achieve that. But what we may be able to do instead, I'll consider also a success if I can find a way to erase out enough of this globe so it doesn't look like a globe anymore and it just looks like it's part of the energy matrix. So right now we're trying to establish a language that makes the energy matrix look cool so that we have something to delete the globe into, if that makes sense. And so before we just had a bunch of squarbly mess gloobaloops. And it was okay, but there was no real structure that went on behind it. It didn't have any real rhyme or reason to it, which for the Abyss might not be a bad narrative to hide inside of, but I was hiding inside of it. And I don't like to hide when I do art. I conceal because you might not need to see it, but I don't like to hide things. If I do, I'd normally point it out and make fun of myself for doing it. But we're trying to play this one as straight as possible. So I'm going to create another layer here, and I just keep seeing these neat little opportunities here to connect these things together, like that. There. See, that just looks fun, and I can use a smaller iteration here. See, I'm trying to create like these little closed loops. Like lightning has to ground itself on something, so all these little jaggedy teeth that are poking out, I'm trying to find ways to sync up the same pattern so that I can curve all these things together elegantly so that it becomes a closed circuit and all of the outlashing stuff is outside of the sphere. So the interior of the sphere has contained energy that's creating a shell that rips open while the exterior is blasting apart and causing damage around it and like electricity and stuff, right? Because that feels like a logical procession of how this machinery would, like how the physics behind the magic would work. Like if we're tearing open a space to create a structure, that outflow has to go somewhere, and that's what causes a destruction around it. So that is what we are attempting to narrate right now. And so far, this stuff looks pretty cool. I bet what I'll end up being able to do is while I refine these little kicks of electricity, actually have them dance across into the trees and maybe like across the terrain a little bit. There's enough chaos in the form of these fractal patterns that I might just be able to have some real tomfoolery like that. So let's see if that ends up being true. But isn't it great how well these things just kind of click together? I love this brush. This was a complete accident I just kind of stumbled into. But I fell in love with it, but there's not often many excuses or reasons for me to use it. So when I saw this opportunity pop up, I'm like, ooh, tidbits of taste. Let's watch it flow. Don't you give me any shit about time. There we go. I spy with my eye text. Hey, what's up, Chronic? I don't have to murder myself on this, but I definitely want to create a respectable, energetic presence. It has to look cool, you know? Otherwise, what are we doing here? I also need to know when to call it quits. There is too much. Yeah. Oop, this feels a little shallow over here. That feels pretty good. Beep, beep, beep. I'm gonna have to duplicate the hell out of that real quick to help. There we go. I can actually take that down a touch to help build some depth. Merge. Down. And now I have holes to fill. My name is Phil. Allow me to perform my namesake. That should work. Now let's double down. Double down. I detect with my eye something that is text. Let's duplicate, merge, and that feels pretty good. Merge again. I can have like little patterning going up along the limbs and around the arms and stuff. So there's a lot of really cool potential here. Fill them. Oh, I need a lot more water today. I can already tell, my friends. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Let's see what happens if I flaming red. That's a neat little glurble. So let's take that and separate that from the mess. I mean, I wasn't supposed to do it that way. Hold on. All right, so we have these two red bubble effects of sorts, right? We got that thing, we got this thing, and we got this other thing. And we could use those as like evaporating energy marks that are kind of inversions of the negatives that, you know, you just saw me fill in the negative space of these energy crackles. So there should be enough pattern recognition inside of these crackles to be able to get a subconscious jive that these are pattern shapes inside of that. So as we move out of the circle, we can potentially layer in those color effects to create a cascading effect. So that's a lot of wordsmithing. So I'm going to shut up here for a second, push this up out of the way. What is that? That's the energy bullshit that I had done originally. Let's yeah, let's do that. Energy mess, circle, energy mess, inner energy mess, bloop, bloop, burp, boop, duplicate, blip, blop, blop, merge. I often will stack up a bunch of layers together, put them in a folder, duplicate the folder, and then merge that folder into a single image that I can just, the extra files actually add to the size. So when I finish these things, I dump them down here into trash. And when the photo is complete, I can delete the trash file and all the 900 layers of garbage that are in that trash file to cut the file size in half. So when I have it up for final, like when I have it in storage for future reference, it's not eating up as much space. And it's a way for me to be able to cheat myself into thinking I have a way to retreat back to an earlier time. So I have like a save, like I'm bonfiring my work here. I'm creating save files inside of itself without having to create separate files that duplicate the entire document, by having like these little set points I can backtrack through. As you see me doing more and more work, you'll see me like, I'll stack up all these things together. I'll pull the portal into one piece. I'll duplicate the portal. I'll trash the original, and then just go forward to this when I'm confident as being a single set piece. That's just, it's probably an inefficient workflow, but it's mine. So I'm going to keep it. And I'm going to back down on that, I think, a little. Nah, I'm going to leave it. I need to keep the intensity up there so I can see the lighting effect, how it's affecting things. But right now, I want to come in here and I want to carve off some of this excessive stuff here. Just curating my own shit, I guess, is probably the best way to put it. Here, I'm okay with that. Kind of like how it's ascending into the darkness like that. That's kind of cool. So I think I want to leave that. But like, this is too far off scale. This is skewing too far. I'm okay with it. And this is actually probably too far too. So I'm going to take this in a bit here. There's two planes of reality us as a viewer are witnessing when we're looking at the cover. There is the actual composition of the story being told inside of the piece, and the different elements of the piece and how they interact inside of the composition. And then there's the reality that the composition is representing the product, which is when the styling format, like the dressing template, like the text, the logo, the frame, all that stuff comes into being. And so the composition has to make sense unto itself. But at the same time, the composition has to complement and balance with the actual frame of the dressing. So you have to think, and you have to be like, when I'm creating this energy effect, I need to be thinking this stuff is affecting the environment around it, but I'm also thinking this stuff is going to lead the eye from the text into the picture. So if I build this well, we'll start with the like your eye will either start here in the globe and we'll work out from around it to see what's going on around it. We'll explore inside the centerpiece, and then push out, and then watch the energy pattern flow up into the text. Or you're going to start with the title and see the energy cascading off of the text and pixelate into the energy field that forms the globe that informs the illustration. So if I build, if I'm as good as I hope I am, we're going to build a piece I'll be able to move in both directions at the same time. So it has that exchange of energy where the title flows into the piece, flows into the title, and it'll feel like a natural composition, like they belong together, which would be a really great way to have a title to a cover piece to an adventure that really pull you into the piece altogether. Hold on real quick. My throat has something to say to myself. All right, you didn't have to witness that. Let's hopefully I'm still sound check, mic check, 1, 2, 3. Let's okay, cool. I had to mute out the phone so you didn't have to hear that conversation. Oh boy, dogs will haunt. Yeah, thanks. So that's the thought process that's going inside of my head. And now that I have a command, a wish to fulfill, as it were, it becomes my prayer that my muse will know what to actually do with that, and allow me to step aside and let her crack some knuckles and start building. So my next step in this process is to shut up and get out of the way and let my muse do her stuff. See, I want to pull this inward. Like, I'm good with that. That feels right. So that means I've got a balance there. I need to balance here. It means this is a little far offline. I can get away. I can get away with this. That's a little dense. What if we, I don't know, flipped it? Flip it for real. Does that feel good still? Let's scooch it a touch. Yeah, I think I like it flipped better. Okay, and now I'm going to duplicate the layer because I'm going to continue experimenting and I don't want to be permanently punished. I'm going to use a light 20% eraser here and just pick at it a bit to fade it out a little bit more. Around at the edges inside here a little bit, just to fade those down. I could use a masking layer that I could just remove and resolve, but I just wanted to do the duplicate save erase effect. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm going to work inside here too, so we're going to go with a 20% effect and get around 20% of the distance away from the wall, and then I'm going to use a second 20%, 40% away from the wall. And I'm going to go with a third effect and just brush along the edges here. So I'm creating this depth. I'm going to go down to a 10% and just pick at this edge just a little bit more, just to create this distancing snow globing effect. And then we're going to do a different effect on the ground here. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Okay, cool. So that's a good base. That's a really good base. I'm happy with that. Now, I'm going to start really considering this snow globe. First thing to do is to duplicate my layer. Keep me from making any mistakes I fully regret. Whoop, whoop. Yeah, this could end up being really fucking cool. Let's actually drop that back a bit. Let's start working up on top of it. I think I'm gonna just switch to, I don't want to use my chisels. I think I want to use my guitar pick. Where are you at? My wedge pitch. And that's what it has, that faded edge on the back end for smoothing, and then it's got a chiseled edge on the front for pushing pixels. I usually use it for a smudge brush, but something told me to use it as the actual brush I'm using right now. It's directional though, so I'm gonna have to pay a little bit more attention to where I'm pointing and how with it. But yeah, let's fuck around and find out. I'm kind of using the shapes that I'm going to be painting over as a guideline to like maybe the size of the brush I want to think about using. This is just you know, we're really just kind of fucking around right now. This is all just magic detail work, and it's pretty much just going to be up to me to decide, you know, what's a cool looking final composition that we're at, and is it legitimately improving the quality of the piece where I'm stopping at, or does it need to go further? So that's the thing about illustrating magic, is like knowing what's needed, when is enough, what's overkill, what's productive. It's kind of getting that stuff. You're establishing a language for something that doesn't exist outside of your head. So the illustrator is going through the process of creating those ideas for you to help frame that conversation. And you can see that this ground scrub is in a layer above in hierarchy than this blast effect. So once we establish this blast effect, we'll be able to pick it up and put it on top of the terrain and then mold it around the terrain, which will be fun to do. I wanted, I think last week I had set the intention to be done with this piece by next week. And so far that's feasible. It's really going to depend on how much backtracking and satisfaction I have off of these magical effects that we're doing. So that's where we're starting at, which is stupid. Okay, here is, do we do this? No, because this is creating hostility inward towards the travelers. I don't like that. Like, all this energy stuff is bubbling around it, outside and away from it. All this energy is pushing away from it. But I have this back block here that I need to express as well. So that should probably actually fold out like that. Let's hide the weapon again to make sure I get my circle going. My favorite weapon. All right, so we're just putting little tufts down, and my intention here is to then pull out these little tufts to create little lightning energy marks and to thread them all together to kind of like use the lightning, the fractal patterning we have underneath it for ways to pull the energy apart into these little globs. That's the idea. So, are you kidding me? Jesus Christ, these minutes. See, I want to fade this out. I want that electricity on the outside, not the inside. I want to create a like a vortex, sort of like wormhole tunneling effect for this thing to be rising out of, not an energy effect. The energy effect is external. I want a different internal language. So I just want to fade that out without completely erasing it. There, that feels better. There's those little quips we can use as like little, like I can use as like little tunnel marks here for us to be able to, like something like that, right? When we get to it, we're not there yet. That'll be the easy part. Energy pattern, little bubbles. I'm gonna duplicate this layer so we don't regret any mistakes. When I make that duplication, I can afford to be bold without having to look back, and most of the time I never need to look back because I go 100% forward, knowing that I have my own past protecting my future like that, you know? If that makes any sense. Let's see, where to begin? Let's just start at the beginning, I guess. Yeah, if we start back here, we can probably afford to make neat little mistakes that by the time we get to the front top part where it's really important, we'll understand what we're actually doing. That makes sense. You can see I can break these things down and these neat little fire effects. And I'm using this electricity stuff as the frame so that I'm bleeding into it. And it should end up being a pretty fucking cool effect when we're done. It's going to take a little time to smudge at it, but this is just the first go, and I already like the idea here. So it'll take a while for us to do all of this, but by the time I get done with this rack down here, I'm gonna have a pretty good idea of how I want this stuff to flow as I start to come up around here in the trees, and then I can start having this stuff pull out and pull into the trees. I can sense there's neat stuff going on here. I've got another nose goblin that has to yell at me. Sorry, real quick. All right, that was horrible. Hopefully you guys didn't have to hear that. I'm gonna do a quick mic check on myself again here to make sure I'm visible. Do through quick. All right, cool. All right, back to work. So, but yeah, that's the idea here: is create these little magical flame effects that rise up and grab onto the pattern and then flow into each other. To have these little fiery energy effects. Does that make sense? Should end up looking pretty fucking cool. And it has its own internal logic built in because we already have the electrical static pattern that we built with the fractals. So now it's just a matter of rendering. And like already, this I'm really happy with this. This is going to end up being really fucking cool. And just like with the Martial Powers book, what's going to end up happening is we're going to end up doing a full run. We're going to loop around here. We're going to loop up here. Then we're going to loop around here, and then loop up here. And by the time we connect here again, we'll be able to go, this will be our first work, we'll go back through, and our first work will end up being our last work to be able to connect the energy and the new tech and the patterning that we developed during that flow process. So this is going from not knowing what I'm doing to finishing the circuit to becoming a master of this specific skill set that I'm developing in this instance that'll then be able to curve back down this here, and then go back through and clean this up as it needs to. So, me walking through it and explain it to you guys like that a couple of times before like actually doing something is low-key me psyching myself up to have the emotional energy to actually do it. So, because this stuff, for me to be able to create things that I love, I have to be able to have the emotional capacity to hold love, which means I need to be excited and focusing, and to allow it to hold my attention, and to be willing to let go of other ideas, especially right now. I don't know, maybe the best way of putting it is my free will. I am surrendering as much of my own personal control of the situation as I can to allow the 30, well, I've been DMing for 36 years, but I've been doing professional art since 2001, so 22 years. I'm going to allow 22 years of experience to take the helm and couple it with my spirit guide, my muse, and allow her to pilot the vessel. In heaven, they are already looking at it on the wall. This life is but a memory of what they already know you will become. You're the last person to know because you are the one that chose to forget. So you can have the opportunity to remember what it's like to have nothing. And to live a life to realize that it was with you the entire time. We have the opportunity to awaken to that reality before we die. Or we could have chosen a ride that keeps us ignorant of the fact our entire life, so that the instant when we're dying, all the memory floods back into us. And that's why everyone's always at peace when they die. Because they remember, like, that last breath they have, it's always, oh. Because they remember that this was all just a game. And that we play it specifically to forget. How amazing it all is. Try experiencing perfection for 1,000,000 years, and then see if The Good Place. Sometimes it sounds like I'm talking out of my ass like this, but if you've seen The Good Place, that is an amazing TV show. And I'm going to throw out some spoiler alerts here for folks, because The Good Place is an amazing essay on remembrance. And it's one of the fun things about that show is that the characters are all dead, and they're coming to grips with what their place in reality really is. And it goes into the construction of the afterlife, and it's really funny because it sounds like such a whimsical, easy solution, but the more you think about it, the more it actually reflects the teachings of Buddhism and really esoteric, Hinduism and Kabbalah, the structuring and fractaling of energy and consciousness from a higher power into a lower life form that limits its own self-awareness of itself. Because when you ask the question, what is outside of yourself, when you are an eternal, endless creation where there is nothing separate from you, you can't ask, what am I, unless there's something that's not you. So you have to be able to create a fragment of yourself that's capable of not seeing the big picture anymore, so that it has the opportunity to become excited about the small, tiny picture. So the idea of eternity is a fractal, where we are the smaller instance of that fractal, coming to grips with, this is all that there is to our reality, but I can see how it's reflected when I look back at the universe and I look at the coincidences and the deja vus and the insane synchronicities that happen through life, that's kind of winking at us about how much is actually going on in reality around us that we've chosen to cut ourselves off from, simply to enjoy the experience of rediscovering it. And art is one of those wonderful opportunities to learn. Like, art is like a form of meditation. where the more you allow yourself to surrender to the process, the more it opens up to you and you discover things and emotions flow. There's peace that can be found inside of it, that Zen empty space that we receive as a blessing to allowing us to surrender to the creation process. And we just don't often recognize that, like going to work and interacting with people on the bus or standing in line, that itself is a performance art that a billion souls are clamoring to see. And all they want to do is just watch you dance. So we could be here for a while. This could take a while. Just depends on how ridiculously micro detailed I want to get. But then, again, this is the kind of stuff I can get super zen on. I only have so many minutes I can play with you guys here live, but I spent a couple hours. I spent a couple hours yesterday building out all this terrain and stuff, so I'm really happy with it. Neighbors are being neighbors. We have kids. It's so fun to be in a neighborhood with just packs of kids. When I was growing up, I was in a pack of about 20 kids. We're all like ages 5 to 9. The flashlight tag games that we would play after dinner was just it was cool. We had a 3-block neighborhood. We had we were in one of those suburban communities where there'd be cul-de-sacs, but then there'd be like inverted cul-de-sacs. Like if you have a street, right, and you've got like house, and then house, and house, and you got like another house, and you got house, right, and then you got this cul-de-sac that gets led into, right, and you got a house here, and a house here, and here. And then you go on, you got like another neighborhood over here, and there's like a cul-de-sac over here that extends off its way. It goes here, and here, and like maybe there's a connection here, so you got house here, and here, right? So that's a cul-de-sac, like a basic neighborhood, and it just like, it fractals itself out beyond from there. So inside of these patterns here, you'd have these are large empty lot spaces. And in our neighborhood, there was another one here. And then what ended up leading down into a lake down here. This is in Kansas City back in 1981. So there's a lake that led down here, and there was a strip here, an exercise strip, like a jogging path. And this area here, there was a jungle gym. And then there was a sand pit, and the sand pit had a 40-foot boat. With a mast that went up 20 feet and had a crow's nest and had a rope ladder that led up to it. And when you were on this vantage point up here, you could see down into the lake, and there was other boats. It's like somebody decided to take a boat, drag it out of the lake, and dump it there and make it part of the playground. Oh my God, that was it was amazing. Best fucking play environment in the world. So we would roam between these 3 or 4 cul-de-sacs, and there was like fencing and stuff that kept us kids from drowning in the lake. But they had this kick-ass environment, this awesome place set built that was just, and there was like, we had like these like those old what is it? When they laid down the copper wire for the phone lines in the 80s, and the trucks would have these spools of electrical of the copper wire, and these spools were about 8 feet, and there was 2 of them just laying in that area. There was a sand pit here with the boat. There was the jungle gem, and then there was 2 spools over here, and there was like 4 caterpillar. What are those things? Like those giant those giant pickups, you know, that have like the really massive chunky wheels that were like 5 feet across. We had 6 of those. So like, there's all this crazy stuff that was laying around that small kids could like literally crawl into and hide inside of. You can get inside of the boat. People would have pirate battles on that boat, and we would fight to take control of it with cardboard tube swords. God damn, that neighborhood was just legendary. That was mid-America in the 80s. We were pretty fortunate being there, but it stoked the imagination. So flashlight tag is when some people would have flashlights and nobody else would, and it'd be dusk plus, so it'd be dark out. So people would run, or kids were not allowed to hide. They had to stay out in the open, but you had to keep moving. If you got hit with a flashlight and they could identify who you are, they would call your name. And if the light was on you and they called your name, they know it's you, you're out. So they would grab you, you take the flashlight, close your eyes for 10 seconds, and then you start looking for targets. So you'd have that inner space between, you can't cross a house. So we had to stay inside that region, inside of that play area between the lake fence and the cul-de-sac back houses, inside of that whole area, and you could run anywhere inside of there, but you couldn't like hold up and hide behind a bush or something, because that ruins the fun. Because it's already dark. The darkness is your shroud. So whoever was it would hunt through the darkness with the flashlight, and it'd go like that. So there could be 20 of us. So there'd be 5 hunters and 15 hiders or runners, I guess, and we could do that for 2 or 3 hours. it was great. I was horrible at that game because I'm really blind, so I could see people without the flashlight really easily. So I was pretty good at running, but if I got tagged, I was fucked because I can't see far enough away to identify who you are, even if I have a light on you. So I could shine lights on people, but I couldn't tell who they were. So once I got it, I was always it. So I only played that game a couple times, but after a while, everyone knew I'd sit that one out. But it was still fun running around and playing with people. There's plenty of other stuff that we could do. But I really enjoyed, like, that was a really great, like, en masse kind of game that you could play with just fuck tons of kids. We on the... I felt like something went wrong, but no, nothing went wrong. There we go. Keep working the plan, Kearney. Oop. There. So I think one of the things I really need to do is get the shape, the rounded base of these guitar picks, to get them all fade into each other so they create a circuit. I think the energy fingering out from there, I think that'll be the easier part. I think what I should probably start with is just blending along this base here to get that all smoothed into each other. I know, right? Phil's talking about heaven again. Sorry, guys. When I find the more I release control, of my autonomy during this art process, the more I allow my muse to take control, the more she wants to talk about where the source of inspiration is coming from. Every time she does that, all she really wants to do is say, you don't have anything to worry about. The only decision we have left in life is to either trust or be scared. And to be honest, you're going to be scared until you trust. So all that people can ever do is hold you close and promise you that you're okay. And it's going to be okay. And eventually you believe it. You believe it for yourself, you believe it for the others around you, and then you become part of the people that hold. Sometimes they call that holding space. I bet I could probably just be a little rougher with this right now. Probably don't need to pussyfoot with it so much. Let's just be rough. Let's just be a little rough and rugged. Smooth all these things together. I think I can make more progress than I am. I'm going to spend a few more minutes working on this here specifically. There's a couple things I think I want to get done here. First I want to establish this energy patterning, this energy movement, how we're going to express that, which we already talked about, and I'm pretty confident that's going to work out. But it is going to take a lot of pixel pushing over an extended period of time of me really just letting go and falling into the moment. A lot of the issues that young artists have is that they're watching artists on YouTube, and most of these are okay. So art. Here's a rant. Get ready. Let's go. Okay, so when you're watching artists on YouTube, not me. Okay, I mean, my style of presentation here is sculpted off of my observation of artists on YouTube. People that create art on YouTube and are talking about the art that they create on YouTube will often show recordings, like pre-recordings of them doing art, and it's sped up. Sometimes it's sped up 100 times, because while they're creating a piece, they might not tell you this character illustration took 32 hours to make. But I'm speeding it up so much that it's going to only take 10 minutes for me to create it, and you're just seeing color filling in and like little pixel things happening, and it all blurs together, and you're seeing like this massive pixel motion stuff that just outflows in time to a full composition while they're talking about whatever it is that they've decided they wanted to talk about. But while they're going through that process, they are speeding it up so you see the end result of what it is that they're doing as part of the conversation that they're having about whatever the topic is, right? Because they're talking about shit just like I talk about shit, right? They're just talking about shit. But they are providing stuff that's already been created, and they are speeding it up. And these are videos that are created that way specifically because you can only hold the attention span of people for anywhere from like maybe 7 to 20 minutes, right? So they have to have a video that's going to go from starting a composition to being done in that time frame with the course of conversation that they're presenting to us as content to consume. So if you are an artist and you are watching this artwork being produced and you're listening to the artist talk about whatever he's talking about, and it's inspiring you to get to work for yourself, whatever it is that you're doing, and it's like, say, about character creation, and they're talking about the different aspects and things you have to think about while you're creating a character, and the type of detail and rendering work that goes into it, and your style and stuff like that. Meanwhile, they're creating this character illustration at 100 times the speed it actually took to produce it. The brain, the student that's watching this content is correlating, if I do it like you, I'm going to produce this thing, but they aren't seeing the grinding steps from second to second of switching the colors, of switching the palette, of finding the tool, of bouncing back and forth between layers. Like, that's all flicking past in a blink of an eye. And they don't get how strugglesome, like how emotionally grueling it is to look down the pipe of, I've got another 120 of these things to do. So I have to keep fucking working for another 120 of these to be done with my first pass. And then I have to do my refining pass over it. And then I have to outstretch from there to make the same patterning, fill in these gaps. Like, that's a lot of work that I am about to embark upon. And I shan't bother you with the 20-hour journey it may very well take for me to complete that task. But I'm right now showing you the steps that I am going to take to perform it with full transparency that this is going to be murderous. So for me to be able to endure this level of self-abuse, of patience and quiet torture, the monotony and boredom of pushing pixels in these small spaces for these microscopic 1/10 inch gains, it's going to require a lot of inspiration and emotional conviction for me to complete the piece, which means I have to be really addicted to small gains. And what can't be taught in these let's plays or like paint-alongs or tutorial things that you see where people are designing stuff in anything other than real time, you're getting a false narrative about how much emotional endurance it actually requires for you to be able to create the kind of work that they create. You can get fast, but you can't get 100 times faster than you're currently working. That is impossible. So what you don't see is the thousands of hours of self-disciplining and training yourself to ignore the screams of exhaustion, of please stop, that is just stretching out of your mind that's bored to tears. Your heart is into it because you become addicted to the end result of, I created this, the pride connected with completing a piece the way that you wanted it to be completed, the way that it looks, the way that you want it to. You nailed it. You get addicted to those victories. But to be able to get addicted to that final victory, you also have to get addicted to all the tiny little microaggressions that go on inside of it. And I do mean microaggressions, because you are effectively abusing yourself, emotionally abusing yourself to be able to build the endurance to delay gratification, basically forcing yourself to starving yourself of variety, so that you can get comfortable with how uncomfortable monotony is. Like, a lot of people don't like menial labor jobs like phone, like customer service or like retail and stuff like that, because it's really monotonous. But if you can find meditation inside of the monotony, then you become eternal, because you lose track of time space inside of the task that you're performing. And artists, when an artist well sculpts their dopamine system, they become addicted to tiny little micro results. Like every time I geek out about drawing a perfectly straight line, or like creating an object and then moving it over and it clips perfectly into position with the thing it was intended for, and I just eyeballed it and it was perfect, Like those little victories is like hitting a 3-point shot without moving the net, from the 3-point line in basketball. Like no net dunk 3-point line. Like that, there's a severe sense of satisfaction to just be able to go, and for it just to sink perfectly without any thought or effort. It's just letting your body run. It's getting yourself to the point where you can get out of the way and forget the experience that you're having, that the body becomes an independent vehicle free from your own free will. And so the choices that you make in those moments, the free will that you have in that moment, is to surrender control of the experience and to allow yourself to become a full passenger in your own life, where you're not making calls or shots about anything. All you're observing is the movement of atoms in space and Planck lengths of movement over time. And it is enthralling. And it becomes a very deep sense of relief. There's a depth of feeling that sits inside of our heart. Like there's a space between our heart and our gut that has like this energy well that you can't access unless you're completely empty. And artists have like art and athletics are like the two systems in society that actively encourage you to engage that space, because like true athletics, like miracles of athleticism, can't occur until you're able to access that space. So if you want to be a basketball player getting paid $7 million a year to play basketball, you need to be able to enter that empty space where you're not even thinking about what you're doing anymore and you're doing it accurately. Like you have to have that precision that your body knows what to do without you even being awake. And artists are the same. Excellent artists, really excellent artists, enter that flow state, and what comes out of it is just beauty. Guitarists, musicians, like all sorts of musicians fall into that space all the time. Like when you jam, like jazz jamming, like there's patterns that they build, and once they recognize and build the patterns, then they just turn off their brain and let the patterns run. It's just an algorithm that their body is running as a pattern of music that's aesthetically pleasing. But you build those patterns and you learn how to perform those actions, and it becomes like a mathematical meditation that you get to experience. You get to actually sit back and not worry about how is it being made. You just get to enjoy the experience of it being made, which is why athletics and art are such an awesome analogy for life overall, because what painting or football or basketball may be to us in our waking life here, our waking life is the sport for those beyond our plane of existence. Like you kicking back and deciding whether I'm full of shit or not while I'm having this conversation with you, you're making that decision in the back of your head. You're reflexively making decisions. You're discerning what you decide you like and don't like, what you agree with and don't agree with, what you want to incorporate into your own personal philosophies or reject or outright forget so it doesn't influence your path of development. These are things that you feel like are just things that are decided. But the truth is that the soul that's writing inside of your body is such an exquisite artist in the art of life that you think these are just things that are happening, when in reality it's an extreme emotional athlete that is allowing its art to be performed, and you're actually the canvas. And we don't realize how much of a canvas we really are until we have the chance to extract ourselves from the experience and realize I wasn't the athlete. I was the canvas that my emotional writer was expressing life through. And the way that we expressed life together was, I'm going to be an athlete, which is an opportunity for me to have this fractal experience of what my soul writer is actually doing, which is living life in the extreme. Us making decisions about who we want to believe in and who we want as friends and what jobs we have and I'm about to sneeze. All these things that happen to us in life. This is the art of being alive, that those that are beyond us are literally performing and appreciating and hitting high scores on and high-fiving each other and waiting in line to put a coin in the machine themselves so they can give a go to. And I think more so than anyone else, artists and athletes have the opportunity to actually like see that and feel that and allow that machinery of reality peel aside and just feel that depth. It's a little ridiculous and it's really silly, but there's just an elegance to the parallel of how it's just reflecting the bigger scope of what reality is, and then pan it out and think about human as a species, as a collective intelligence, or like fungus on the planet as a cascading reality that's expressed as individuals. Humanity itself is a single expression of art that somebody created, somebody really, really far up there with a really huge tool set created a new existence, a new form of reality, and a new form of sustenance and DNA. Like DNA is a pixel. And they use those pixels to paint humanity and souls and people and diseases and war and love and childbearing and meeting an old friend. These are all instances, tools that are created to express artistic ideas, performances of just expressing life. Hey, I've got a message here. I gotta look at that. Sorry, I just had a text message shared with Miss that should absolutely not be shared with anybody. But it involves very spicy food and somebody waking up. Excuse me. But yeah, so when I turn off my brain and I start pushing pixels and I create stuff, I have no idea what it is I'm creating. It just ends up manifesting on the page, and I am often, when I'm in a good space, I am as much of an audience member as anyone that's watching right now. I have no idea what's happening next. It's all guided by inspiration. When I actually have to think about stuff, that's what pulls me out of the inspiration, and I grind back down into being an individual human, making individual choices with the lack of confidence of knowing if this was destined to happen or not. Of course it was. But I can't see it. I can't feel it because I have to extract myself from that art flow to be able to have the conscious capability of making a discerning discernment, a decision of, should I push pixels left, right, up, down, left, right, A, B, or B, A? Maybe I should select that or just start. And so then I dive back into it and I try to escape myself as quickly as possible, which is why it's often best for me to listen to music that I love listening, that I adore. The more I adore the music that I listen to while I'm painting, the more the pixels just guide themselves and I'm just singing along. Like when I lived on the ranch and I'd have to mow, 3 acres of land. Then you have a lot of time. You're pushing a mower and you're taking a shitload of grass and you're throwing it into a gully, and that's like a 16-hour process every weekend. So like there goes my weekend, and since I'm in Missouri, there goes my summer. So I had a real shitty life as far as like a privileged kid's concerned. Like I was scooping horse shit and trimming horse paddocks, grass fields, a lot of my childhood, and so for me to be able to endure that level of boredom, I had to get really intimate with escaping into my Walkman where I could listen to music, and I got really familiar with this sense of escaping outside of the task that I'm performing, which has only really served me gold once I actually got serious about doing artwork, because that same sense of having to disconnect to get the amount of work done needed to perform, to get completed, and the more you disconnect, the more the system is like releasing this dopamine chemical that feels like this is heaven for you. This is the bliss that heroin addicts seek. You can have it just by painting and getting really patient with monotonous tasks. It's really just being capable of telling your inner voice of boredom of, God, please do something else right now, and you just saying no, and getting really comfortable and enjoying the pitching fit, the temper tantrum that your attention span throws. When your body throws that boredom temper tantrum, that's when it's getting ready to just dump a shitload of serotonin and dopamine into your body's system to try to pacify itself, so that it can endure this torture that you're forcing it to endure, to tolerate, in the expression of and increasing your attention span. Because that's all meditation is. All meditation really is training your body to extend your attention span. And the more, for example, what was it? Matt Kahn is a guy I like to listen to. Kahn, like the warlord, like Genghis Khan. Matt Kahn, M-A-T-T, Matt Kahn. He was a guy. He lived here in Seattle for a while. He's in Portland now, but he would talk about stuff like this a lot, and he was. How did he put it? It was, damn it! I just woke up in the middle of. I have no idea I literally have no idea what I was talking about. I have no idea what I was talking about. I couldn't remember how to spell his name, and I decided to spell his name, and it pulled me out of my circuit. Hold on, real quick. And I decided to spell his name, and it pulled me out of my summer. And so I had a real shitty life, as far as like a privileged kid's concerned. Like I was scooping horse shit and trimming horse paddocks, grass fields. A lot of my childhood, and so for me to be able to endure that level of boredom, I had to get really intimate with. Okay, that's what it was. All right, so it's attention span. It's being able to hold attention. That's what it was. It was the process of meditation. He talks about techniques of meditation, and specifically what we're talking about is open eye versus closed eye meditation. So what happens is when you get good at listening to your heartbeat and listening to the movement of energy inside of your body and your eyes are closed, well, anytime you sit still and listen to how reality is either moving inside of you or around you, that is the process of meditation, of observing without taking action, or not clinging onto any judgments or observations you have about what moves. Like, you can't stop yourself from thinking, right? But you can stop yourself from judging yourself or having opinions about what those thoughts mean. You can simply, and you hear this a lot from other meditation teachers, is allow the thought to happen, but don't hold on to it. Let it happen and then let it pass. And it's like, the way that you do that is by just acknowledging its presence. Like, that is a thought. Just like that is a tree. And it's like, that is an oak tree, therefore I am a horrible person. It's like, no, it's just an oak tree. And you're just acknowledging that's an oak tree. Like, this is a thought about me punching my friend in the face for saying that thing one time. I'm a horrible person for thinking that. It's like, no, you're not. You're just having a thought of violence. And you can just simply acknowledge this is a thought of violence. And if you really want to get into it, is this is a thought of violence. I'm glad I can discern that this is something that I'm simply observing and not actually doing. And then you can celebrate yourself for not being that person in this instance. Like, here's, like, if you ever have thoughts of things that are horrible and you ever think you're a horrible person for having those thoughts, think about reframing it this way. These are things that someone, somewhere, at some time would actually be doing right now to somebody in the same relationship as whoever it is I'm thinking about. Like punching my friend in the face. Somewhere, somebody, right now, is punching their friend in the face for probably about the same sort of thing I'm thinking about. But me, I'm just having a thought about it. So I can be very thankful that I'm not that guy right now. And when you are that guy, and you are punching your friend in the face, and you think about it, and you are steeped in regret, and you're like, I have no idea why I did that. Well, the reason you did that is so that everyone else that ever has the thought of being you doing that can thankfully appreciate that you did it for them, that they don't have to. Sometimes you're the ass, and sometimes you're the goat. So when you're the ass, don't take it personally. Everyone has to be the ass, because we're all going to be an ass. It's all going to happen to us. Everyone's eventually going to be an ass to somebody. Don't take it personally. So closed eye meditation, when you're thinking about these sort of things, a lot of times people are doing meditations with their eyes closed. And the problem with closed eye meditation is that we are training ourselves that if we want peace, we have to stop looking at the things around us. We have to extract and pull away from the horrors of our reality for us to find any form of inner peace. The idea here that I've been leading to is that if you have an open-eyed meditation where you get comfortable with just like Buddha under the Bodhi tree, staring forward at nothing in particular, but still being present and observing life flowing around you, you can have that level of inner peace while you're actively engaging in life. You can have that samsara, that sense of inner peace. Samadhi, that's what it is. That state of blissful presence while you're picking apples out of a display case at your local grocery store. You can be in that Zen state because you are actively training yourself to be free from judgment about, I like this apple. What does that say to me about all the apples that I didn't choose? It didn't say anything. It just says that you chose this apple. And you probably don't even know why you chose that apple, because somebody with a coin in a machine someplace said, apple, click, 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 and he like hits the apple button, and he grabs an apple, and he puts it into the bag, and he pushes the cart, and somewhere, at some level of reality, that is an incredible cascade of chemical reactions that cause your muscle system to interact with the atoms of the cart and the apple and the environment that you're in to make all those physics work, and something at a really deep level of complexity built all that stuff. And it is excited that you picked up the human experience PDF on reality.com for like 13 farthings or whatever, and is just excited beyond belief that you think it's a cool thing to play with. So, which is another reason why I think role-playing games are like the ultimate expression of alternate reality. It's like the ultimate parody of us expressing that we actually know what's going on in a larger sense of reality. Because here we are, these little meat machines that are designed to push fungus around the planet are creating fractal realities inside of these role-playing games, where we're creating subsets of physics that exist inside of the larger set of physics that we operate inside of, to create variant structures of reality that have things like magic and monsters and high science and all these fantastical elements. Like, we don't create, paper like papers and spreadsheets. Or what was it? What was the joke? It was God damn it! It was like boardroom. It was what was it? Boardrooms and bosses. Yeah, that was it. Boardrooms and bosses. Instead of Dungeons and Dragons. It's like no one plays boardrooms and bosses because all of us have to fucking play boardrooms and bosses every day. That is already the role-playing game that have been built for us as meat machines to play inside of in the Western culture. But us little meat machines stuck inside the game of Boardrooms and Bosses created a subsection or like a substrata of that game, and we called it Dungeons and Dragons, where we take the ideas that are implanted into Boardrooms and Bosses and extrapolated it into fantasy worlds of Conan and high sorcery, where we feel like we have some form of empowerment in our life. Because in Boardrooms and Bosses, we're all playing corporate slaves inside of a larger structure where we don't actually know how to survive on our own, and we're stuck inside of this self-punishing structural society where conformity is encouraged and unique expression is often dissuaded. And so the experience that you gain is how productive are you as a citizen, for instance. But we have this glut of resources left over that we have to have our emotional sustenance resolved so that we can still be productive. So one of the outlets for using that emotional resource or to regain that emotional resource is hobbies, the hobby subgame. And so the hobby subgame allows you to create ideas. And so the sub idea that you create is role-playing games. So we're a creature playing a game of reality that enjoys creating and playing inside of a sub-game of reality. And then you take it a step further by, inside of your D&D game, have your characters get really obsessed with playing rifts. So you have D&D players that don't throw spells and kill monsters and instead sit down and play Boardrooms and Bosses. So and then it circles back into itself and it becomes an Ouroboros. But that's kind of what I love about role-playing games, is that it's a game creating a game inside of itself. Whether it believes it's a game itself or not, it thinks it's creating a game as an escape, which is that escape is just an emotional resource regain. It's like taking a short rest by engaging in a hobby. Your character of whoever you are watching the stream right now is taking a short rest by enjoying whatever it is that you enjoy on YouTube. Maybe it's this, maybe it's something else. I guess that was the end of the thought. So there you go. Oh, that's it. But yeah, the waking eye meditation. So if you close your eyes, you escape from the fabric and you train yourself to run away from the experience if you need to touch grass. If you actively keep your eyes open and just stare at this, well, not stare, you can blink and shit, but the thing is to keep looking. Like, you could look forward and reality changes around you, but if you really want to push yourself, just sit in a nice dark setting, not black, but like low lighting so there's no eye strain anywhere. And just pick a direction and sit in the chair and just look at that space and allow your eye to wander around, but just keep going back to center. Allow your eye to drift away, and then when you notice that drift away, just slide back to center. No judgment, just slide back to center. And just keep moving your eye, just allowing your eye to keep moving back into center. When you're observing you're having a thought, just let the thought play out. And it's like, that was a thought. And then that will punctuate it, and then you can transition to whatever the next thought is. And you'll just keep moving through thought after thought, but you're staying still and you're staying judgment free. And the more you do that, the more you just naturally start to do that. You can just enter that meditative state. Oh, I'm processing a TPS report right now. I know how to do that. And you don't have to maybe even think about what it is that's being put into the TPS report. You're just doing a TPS report. You don't have to think about it anymore. You can just let that go. So yeah, that was a thing. And then TPS reports become meditative. It's just artists get there faster because the very practice of art lends itself to zoning out. Work, like office environment work, tends to require just enough presence of activity that you can't truly just zone out and get meditative with it. Which is why like time management becomes such a big priority in corporate environments, because you never really have the time to zone out while being productive. An artist becomes more productive the more they zone out. High-end athletes, the more they zone out, the more accurate their skill becomes. The more accurately they're able to throw, the more precisely they can judge time, space, distancing, opportunities, intentions, tracking targets. The more an athlete zones out, the more dangerous they become to their opponents. Same thing with combatants. Like martial artists are called martial artists for a reason, because when you train yourself in combat enough that it becomes reflexive. Like soldiers are martial artists. It's just they're not using kinpo, they're using, assault rifles. They're not gaining meditation by firing an arrow at a target. They are firing at active targets against you. So combat is its own form of art. It doesn't have a very good learning curve. There's not a lot of accuracy allowed. But the panic and the fear, the overload of having a psychotic episode in the middle of a conflict actually is a form of accessing that sense of flow, where your body will reflexively do what it's been trained to do at the best of its ability. If you've ever been in a traumatic household, you might understand what it is that I mean to be triggered in an event that forces you to have fight or flight reflexes. Fight or flight reflexes is a very primitive form of meditation access flow. Animals exist in that flow state most of their life because they're terrified of fucking everything. So they don't have a chance to drop out of flow, because every instance is a terror to them. It's when they drop out of that flow, that's when the birds catch them. When they become enraptured by, oh, what's this tasty little thing that's on the ground? And then they lose scope of the environment around them. That's when the owl catches them. It's ironic. But it's all about that flow state. The flow state keeps you safe. The fascinating thing is, and I'll tell you this from experience, from wrecks and accidents that I've been in, that the deeper in the float state that you are, the safer you are, and the less you realize that something's gone wrong. Like deers that get dropped and they just instantly disappear, it's because them running from that prey was their flow state. And then when they get caught, they just check out because their dream has come true. Like their dream ends, and then their consciousness moves on to another space. I didn't even know I was in front of a car when I got hit. I was walking across a highway and I didn't realize there was a car coming because I can't see. And the driver didn't know I would ever walk out in front of him, so he didn't think he had to be careful about me, but we were both wrong. So he hit me at 60 miles per hour, threw me 120 feet into a ditch. But I blanked out as soon as the bumper hit me, because I was in a flow state, because I was living my best life. I was enjoying my song. I was with my friend. And then my friend was like, Phil? I'm like, what? And then blip, and I wake up, I'm in the hospital. And I was fine. They put some stitches in my head. My elbow was scraped, and they sent me back to work the next day. A-okay. 110 feet where the skid marks was laid on the highway where I got hit. And for those that don't, I'll just finish off that story here real quick for people. For those that don't know, what happened was, apparently this truck was sky blue. It was coming down a hill. It was dusk. The sun was behind the truck. I can't see color. I can't see in the sun, and I can't see far. So I never had a chance. It was way from the police report. The driver said, like, I knew the guy was. I saw him. He was on the side of the road. I never in a million years thought he was going to step out in front of me. And if I knew he was there, I wouldn't have. But I didn't, and he didn't know what I didn't know. So he hit me, and I bounced off of his hood. My shoulder tore off his windshield wiper. When that happened, there was an ambulance that had gone out because somebody called in because they were having a heart attack and it ended up being indigestion. So they gave him some heartburn medication and was heading back to the hospital, and it was an empty carriage, right? They didn't have any patient that needed to be taken care of. There was no heart attack. So they literally saw me get hit by the truck. They're like, well, fuck. And they just pulled over. They literally watched me get hit by the truck. They're like, well, fuck. And they pulled over, got out of the truck, got the gurney, went over, and just peeled me off the pavement. And the hospital was 3 blocks away. So like, well, and I was like, I woke up. I didn't wake up in a hospital. That was hyperbole. I actually woke up while they were cutting my clothes off. So I wake up because someone's cutting my clothing off. I'm like, what's going on? It's like, you got hit by a truck. I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, don't move. I'm like, okay. And then I like sat there for a second. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what does that mean? And then I did a check-in with myself. And And so when I finished checking in, I was like, I can feel my toes. I'm like, that's awesome. Don't move. I'm like, yes, sir. It's like, we're taking you to the hospital. You're going to be okay. I'm like, I believe you. They're like, great. And then they took me to the hospital and they put me in a bed and they did checks on me. And yeah, they let me out the next day because they had to put some sutures in my skull. And I had scraped my elbow. It's like, yeah, you're going to be okay. We're going to give you a chiropractor to go see and do some physical therapy for your hip because that's where you got hit. And but yeah, you should be okay to go back to work. So I went back to work the next day, and I had months and months of emotional terror. And slowly dreams would come back to me about what actually happened during that process that I couldn't remember in the moment because my body blanked it out from me because like a deer being dropped by a mountain lion, I guess, for this analogy. It won't be able to handle the trauma of being torn apart, so it just kind of mentally checks out. I emotionally checked out in that moment because I was the deer and that truck was the lion. So I had the opportunity of having some really intimate experiences with that process. And during the recovery of that, the emotional recovery of that experience, I've had a really deep opportunity of embracing the deep questions and the sense of being able to release myself from accountability and like being like if I can't be responsible for that, what can I be responsible for? Like the terror of knowing that apparently I can get killed by anything at any time and I'll never see it coming. How am I supposed to deal with that? The answer is you just got to accept it and just keep doing therefore what you feel is right, because at any time you can be wrong and the game is over and you probably won't even see it coming. So that at 20 years old, that starts to grind in an interesting philosophy about how are you supposed to live your life and how do you hold people accountable for the decisions that they make, and how can you discern good ideas from bad ideas, and how can you learn to trust yourself after things like that, and like a billion really deep questions that you have to face because of the traumas that you realize that you're enduring. It's fascinating. It's fascinating stuff, which allows me to have fun conversations like this, or at least to be able to rant about them. And the more I rant about them, the more I'm releasing control of what's actually going on. And while all this is going on, I'm painting. And I'm not even thinking about what I'm painting, but this shit's looking really fucking cool. So, yeah, it really, really, yes, this stuff, all this stuff, it's the inner experience of this. It propels you through your own evolution. Like, we're here to evolve, and this body that we possess, it's a chemical machine that's driven by emotions. And it's 11:30, so apparently, where am I at? Apparently, I just hit my 30-minute mark, and I am officially on call for brunch. So I'm going to kick out here. Hold on, sorry guys. I am officially on call. I'm just texting a message that I am open for brunch whenever you're done doing your tasks. My gal has morning activities that she performs, and we get together for brunch and then go off and do our own things together, and then get back together for dinner, and then we spend Sunday together. We spend Saturday night together, and then Sunday morning together. We have a real time on, time off sort of relationship, because we both have a lot going on in our lives. So we carve out time specifically for each other. So when it's us time, it is us time. When it's whatever else time, it is whatever else time. So I'm letting her know that I acknowledge that it is open, and I'm still picking at stream a little bit, but I will end stream in a second if she wants to connect, because I am on overtime right now. So I've got 15 minutes left on the clock right now. But again, if she decides to engage, then I'm just going to kill the stream and say goodbye. But we're going to be done for the day in 15 minutes anyway. But I'm going to go through and basically build this, like you can see here, like where I was trying to fall back into flow here, and I was having to make decisions about stuff, how it looks kind of broken. But then once I fall into flow state, how it sort of melts into the circuitry easier. This is the kind of flow state and space that I want to be inside of. And you can see the more I escape into my headspace and allow whatever machinery is running to run, the more beautiful this patterning, the more easily these things weave together. Like that's an interesting proof of concept that really just provides evidence about what it is that I've kind of been talking about here. So it sounds kind of crazy on the outside of it, but the only reason I bring it up is because when I surrender myself to the art process, who I call my muse, this is the things that she wants to talk about. Like, she's like, I will take control of you and I will create the beautiful things for you, and you won't have to worry. They'll look good. But on the back end of it, here's the deal. You're never going to question anything I decide to talk about. And you can look back at it and you can be utterly, utterly embarrassed by what you say. And I do not give a fuck. This is the deal. You're going to give yourself to me. And I'm going to do whatever it is that I want to do with your reality. I will kill you if I want. And as a result of it, you will experience heaven while I'm here. And it's a hell of a deal. I'm in. It's like you will remember all of this when you awaken in heaven. And I will buy you a beer. And then it's my turn. So... sorry, that breaks me up a little bit sometimes, but that's my reality. That's a form. That's a sort of reality that people can experience. It's the one that I experience. So, but everyone is different, and it's really fun when you think about it. That all we are fungus transportation. Fungus was the first type of life here, and everything evolved from fungus so that fungus could function better. What's the most difficult thing for fungus to do? Get from one shadow to another. How can it best get from this tree to that tree? Well, we could start with airflow. So let's create seeds and pollen that can spread from one area to be migrated by wind pattern to another location and spread. That worked well, but what if there's no good resources there? How are we supposed to get the resources needed to make that new colony location get the nourishment that it needs to help more fungus grow? We need some sort of fertilizer. Well, how are we supposed to get fertilizer there? Well, what if we created a machine that like went and gathered the carbon resources needed, broke it down into something that could easily be mulched, and then deposited it where we needed it at? Okay, what do you think we should do? And then we created a dog that eats a bunch of flowers and then shits it out on a bush. And then underneath that bush, mushrooms grow. So the bushes help the pollen push. The dog is a giant machine that is designed to help provide growth resources to fungus that grow wherever it shits. Wherever your shit is where the next colony of fungus can grow. And if that colony is going to die, chances are it's going to release a scent that another moving machine is going to like the smell of. It will pick it up and it will carry it to the next location, and it will poop it down into another place, and the fungus will start trying again at another location. Our brain looks an awful lot like fungus. We are just a giant, all animals on this planet are just really complicated machines to move fungus around. I've heard a number of scientists in quippy little YouTube shorts and conversations say that if aliens arrived on the planet, they wouldn't talk to humans first. They would attempt to talk to mushrooms, because mushrooms outpopulate humans by about 1 billion to 1. So if you are a creature that's trying to assess what's the most intelligent thing, are you going to ask a Chrysler hey, what's that song you're listening to? Because the Chrysler is moving around, but the alien then has to understand, oh, the Chrysler is just a machine. It's the human that's moving the machine. Maybe I should ask the human, hey, what's that song you're listening to? Oh, yeah, that's Steely Dan. Oh, that's pretty cool. The car didn't know that, but the human that was driving the car did. Now, zoom out a little bit more, and you're an alien that exists on multiple planes of existence at the same time. And it says, hey, how's that rage energy playing out for you? And if you went up and asked a person, hey, how's that rage energy playing out for you? It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? But if you ask the mushrooms, they're like, oh my God, cortisol's up 20%. Our growth cycle's tripled in the past 3 decades. It's fucking amazing. We created social media, and it causes flesh machines to interact in a way that creates more cortisol. It's insane. It's honestly, you guys should try it out. Oh, okay. Like, that's the reason why we don't know aliens are here is because they aren't ready to talk to us yet. They're talking to who's in charge. We just don't know we're not in charge. Because that's part of the game. I don't honestly know if mushrooms are what are actually in heaven, and if I'm actually a form of psilocybin, perhaps. That is just rendering psychedelic images for other mushroom farms to enjoy or not, but and at some level of reality, that is truth. All the voices in my head speak English for whatever it's worth. So we engage in the tools at the level of reality we're capable of engaging with them. The more we get in tune with our emotional self, the less words become necessary, and the more just raw emotion can express the lessons that we need to exchange with each other. There's also the idea of memes, which are like thought processes or thought patterns that exist in sort of like a psychic sea. Like if spores exist in soil and in the air, and like move through air or move through the water or move through the liquid surfaces inside of human or other organisms' bodies, then a meme is an idea like domination or pride, different emotional states that may actually have their own form of intelligence and seek organisms that are capable of fabricating that emotion, or like conducting chemical processes can be hooked to different emotional experiences. So like the meme of fear can be hooked to cortisol and adrenaline. So let's build creatures that produce cortisol and adrenaline so that we can have more manufacturing of fear. Like the lizard people theory is that they feed off of fear emotions, so they want to create social media that makes more people afraid. But at the same time, that means there are more angelic beings that feed off of grace, forgiveness, inspiration, the muses of Olympus that the Greeks used to speak about. Those would be different types of meme entities that dominate different, or that oversee, or are gods of different emotional experiences that guide us into feelings that, and create scenarios that allow us to have those feelings, because it needs to produce more energy engagement of this emotional quality. That is a lot of what gods are expressing, like Shiva, the goddess of destruction, or the goddess of rebirth, or the goddess of nourishment, is actually the acceptance and worship of the cycle of destruction for the purpose of allowing more to grow and to flourish beyond the limits of whatever that life cycle was. Like that thing had a purpose. You have to, like, worshiping elders, you know, like respecting your elders and having veneration worship. That is a form of acknowledging that in time you too will age and pass, and the wisdom that you held is only so useful as to how you can impart it and help others evolve beyond you. So in that sense, this is my contribution to those gods. Me sharing my emotional experience and how I learned to deal with them and provide ideas and prayers that others can follow in the form of escaping into the space of flow. So far, flow is the best state or meditation that we can offer that allows us to connect to larger structures that have a more subtle form of nourishment and existence. I'm not saying lizard people are real. I'm just saying that's how that sort of idea, that's what those sort of things, that's the ideas around those things. Like that's how those ideas work. Or at least one way that they can work. It's not like I'm the absolute authority on anything here. I'm just running my mouth because that's what the muse told me to do if I want to keep painting. That comes off as a threat, but it's not. Did I run out of music? Nope, it's just a quiet song. And nope, I wanted to be here, and I wanted to get to here. Right, and we got, how much time we got left? 5 minutes. So as you can see, even in my best Zen state, I've only gotten, how much I get done? Like, I'm not gonna consider these done. Like this is where I was talking about. Like, we're gonna start off and be really shitty at this, and as we keep going around the circle, we're gonna get better and better at doing this. And look, we are like already, like, this stuff is way better than what we had going on inside here. Like this was a hint about this is like an idea, and this was like, how rough do we need to be? How can I play with this shit? Let's kind of get some practice in here. And okay, now we kind of get it. Now we're in flow. And now we're punching out material here. So we've gotten to doing this again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is about, we've gotten about 1/10. This block here, just this curve here, this area here, that's about 1/10 of the project that we're currently working on. And that's what we were able to get done in, like, what, about an hour? Like, once we actually fell into the groove of it, it took us about an hour to do this. So extrapolating that probably means I'll get faster at it, which probably means I'll need to spend another 7 hours doing this. But when that's done, that's going to feel pretty good, but it's also not very large. So I'm looking at the big picture here and seeing how much of a knot difference that makes. That's a problem. So I'm going to go through and continue this process, but I need to think bigger while I'm doing this, because I've been zoomed in so much to micro detail. So what I really need to be doing is thinking larger scale like this. So I think I can afford to come through here and start smudging this stuff together. It's not wasted time, it's discovery. But that also means I'm going to have to invest some time off screen, obviously, to be able to complete all this stuff. But you see what the process is now. Me turning off my brain and letting the pixels flow and push themselves into these fractal patterns that we built so that we can create this cool, energetic magic effect. And as we can see, it's pretty cool. So all I have to be able to do is extract these values and bring them up to a larger scale so that we can enjoy them and recognize their presence at this larger scale. So this is actually pretty good training. And it doesn't really matter at what scale we're doing it. And we just started really small because, well, that's how it started. That's how it always begins, says Eggshin. It always starts small. Green flame. Please, explain to me. Sorry, quitting Big Trouble in Little China there for you guys real quick. So I definitely want to keep this edge, this spherical edge inside here, to help express the shell of it, and I want to keep pushing energy away from it, and so I can have some of this energy exchange crackling around in this electricity that's inside of the circle. But I think we're establishing pretty well here this spherical effect with that fade going on. So that's another limitation that we have to keep in mind as we work our way around the circle here. I think I was actually in the right space thinking about these things at this larger scale down here, because this is a larger scale that we're looking here, that we're weaving into this structure here. That's actually really interesting, that we're building these larger things into these larger structures. It's kind of parallel to what we were talking about with larger structures. Apparently my muse was, that was the fun thing. If I actually become a member of the audience, I can pick up the lesson that she was hiding, and she was encoding inside the conversation. I was saying whatever it is that she wanted me to say, for whatever it is that you needed to hear for your system to exchange and upgrade whatever meme cycle you're working your way through. But as a participant, as a member of the audience myself during this process, the lesson that I just learned is that, hey, all those things that you're learning to weave together at this like really tiny micro scale here inside these things, it's a fractal, stupid. So these tiny little things here are really big over here. So you can use that same method with a larger brush, and the stuff that you were just complaining about how long it's gonna take, it's not gonna take that long, dog. Look, just fill it all in, just like you did down below at the lower structure. But now, if you really want to, you can get really sick and get inside that space and fill it in like that and carve out little holes inside of it. But keeping in mind that you should also be doing that first at this larger macro scale, to use that same language to fill in these larger pieces that you have, so that when we scale back further, you'll be able to see that same stuff here at this tiny scale. And that's going to be a really fucking cool piece of art. So that's what we're working our way into. Apparently I was demonstrating what she wants us to see in the piece, except I was dealing with it at such a tiny scale. I'm like, how is that possibly practical for the composition? She's like, well, because you're thinking in the wrong scale. You know, you're doing that book in Spelljammer, Phil, that talks about scaling from the 5-foot scale to 50-foot scale to 500-foot scale, yet the action economy of combat for your characters is exactly the same. You're just dealing with larger machinery and larger weapons. It's the same thing. I'm like, oh my God, you're right. Wow. God damn. She's like, that's right. So he says, get back to work. So that's the joy that I had. And I can do, and I can, and so, you know, I'll go have some brunch. I have time to myself. And I can, maybe I'll listen to like Rush 2112 today and have like a 60-minute cycle of me just enjoying the Priests of Syrinx. And at the end of it, maybe half of this thing will actually be done. Who knows? But that's my next step, my next process. So I am, we're gonna go ahead and, as soon as she lets me go, there it is. There's my ping for the meal. So yep, I was right. It's time for me to go. I had a blast today. Thanks for letting me ramble on, guys. I know I talk about the same stuff sometimes, but again, I'm not in charge. I'm just the guy pushing pixels, and I love being part of the audience. So thanks a lot for being here. I think I'm hoping I'm going to have a piece of conversation from before extracted and have something new that's posted tomorrow. I've got some tools that I'm putting up on my Patreon at Phil Kearney. So if you thought this stuff was cool, or, you know, go ahead and put comments down below how insane you think I am if you want, or like and subscribe if you think this shit's cool. We'll be back for more in the future. And so I'll have a recording posted tomorrow for folks to check out if you're interested. I'll be live doing more Spelljammer art on Monday morning. Monday at lunch, I'm going to do more monk class design for the martial power system for 5e mechanics and D&D. And then Monday night, I'll be doing more Eberron character art sketches, which is a shitload of fun to do yesterday. Go check that out. Yeah, thanks a lot for being here, guys. Thanks a lot for hanging out for me and shooting the shit. I'll see you guys on the other side. Thanks a lot.